Hello, welcome back to Geomega Virtual Learning. In today's lesson, I'm going to present to you two problems involving transformation of graphs, one as a quadratic graph and one as a trigonometric graph. So let's look at the first one. Given y equals x squared as sketched below, sketch the graph of y equals x squared minus 6x plus 7. State the coordinate minimum point. To do this, we can use completing the square to understand how to transform the graph. So if you don't know completing the square, one of my videos about 3 lessons spent on completing the square, so go and watch that. So to complete the square is x minus 3 all squared, then minus 3 squared plus 7. Let's work out 3 squared. That will be 9. So now minus 9 plus 7 will give us x minus 3 all squared minus 2. So this is where we stop. This is the nature of the quadratic function, but in an implicit form, this is what it looks like. The square here is only to tell us that the graph is quadratic. This implicit function tells us the shift. So minus 3 means shift to the right, and minus 2 outside means shift down. So we're going to move the graph 3 units to the right and 2 units down. So that's translation. So that's our 3 units. Then we're going to move it down 2 units. Okay. So our coordinate point for minimum point is 3 and minus 2. 3 and minus 2. Remember, the coordinate point for the original one is 0 and 0. And if you remember what we did in lesson 3 on transformation of graphs, you move any 3 units to the right, so x will move 3 units to the right. Then y will move down 2 units. Y is 0, so if you move down 2 units, that's y is 3 minus 2. Now, to really understand the graph properly, you can see that we need to get the intercept and also the x coordinate, where the roots of the equation, so to speak. So to find the root of the equation, all you need to do is you set this equal to 0. 0 equals x minus 3 all squared minus 2. And you work out what x will be. That will be the root of the equation. And for the intercept is positive 7. So that's what you will have. When you work it out, you're going to have this as the root of the equation. And our intercept is 7. So as you can see, this is a translation by 3, negative 2. 3, negative 2. Don't forget, it's always the opposite way. Minus 3 means move to the right. But when it's outside, minus 2 means move 2 units down. So shift the graph 3 units to the right. Finally move the graph down 2 units. And our roots is plus or minus root 2 plus 3. That's what you have. Intercept is 7. Now let's look at the second problem. Sketch the graph of y equals 3 sine into bracket 2x minus 180 degrees, then minus 1 within 0 to 360, and state the period and the range. Before we go into that, let's have a general format of either sine or cosine so that we understand the full picture before we narrow it down to exactly what we have. So this is the nature. A could be like 3, B could be like 2, C could be like 180, D could be like what you see exactly. So when you have a typical format like this, what do they stand for? Each letter. A is the amplitude, always absolute value, don't forget. A is your amplitude. So here, the amplitude of the graph we're going to draw will be 3. To get the period, always divide 360 by the value of B. To get the period, divide 360 by the value of B. Now, always divide C by B to know the phase or the horizontal shift. Always divide C by B to know the horizontal shift. And D is also the vertical shift or the displacement. D stands for the vertical shift. It could be positive, it could be negative. That's positive shifted up, negative shifted down. Okay. Whether sine or cosine, this is what the letters mean. Then the range, to find your range, you just have your A and you add or you minus D depending upon the sign to get your first range, the biggest number. And you take a negative of the A, you add or you take away D depending upon what the D value is, whether positive or negative, to know the minimum number for the range. So the range is the biggest to the smallest. Positive A plus or minus D and negative A plus or minus D. Now let's be specific about our question. So we start. A is our 3 is our amplitude. 360 divided by 2, 180. So which means the graph is going to keep repeating itself every 180 degrees. The sine graph will repeat itself 180 degrees every time. Phase shift, 180 divided by 2. So that means it's a graph that will have to shift it 90 degrees to the right. Remember, it's to the right because it's negative. Vertical displacement of -1. So at the end of shifting it to the right 90 degrees, we have to move it down again 1 unit. Our range, 3 minus 1 is 2. So the top, at the end of the transformation, our top number should be 2, and minus 3 minus 1, -4. So at the end of a transformation, our minimum range for y will be -4. So let's see how it works. If you look at this carefully, it's typically a sine x graph. So let's start with a sine x graph. Then once we get our sine x graph, we change it into sine 2x graph. Then we change it into 3 sine 2x. Then when we understand what is 3 sine 2x, we can now move it to the right 90 degrees and move it down. Let me repeat again. We start with a sine graph, change it into sine 2x, change it into 3 sine 2x. Now you look at 3 sine 2x, move it 90 to the right and move it down 1 unit. So this is our sine, which you should know what to do now. Because you're going to do 2x, that means the period, like remember the period is what, 180. So we're going to have a typical sign here and another sign there. So that will be our sine 2x. So this is our sine 2x. Okay. Let's change sine 2x into 3 sine 2x. All we need to do is to change the amplitude. So it's the same graph, but go up to 3, down to -3, the same thing, the same graph, but let the amplitude, exactly. So now focus on the blue line. We're going to shift the blue line. We're going to shift the blue line 90 degrees to the right and 1 unit down. Now remember, as we are only looking at 0 to 360, as we shift, part of it will be lost, but part of it that is in the negative zone will also be gained, so it will compensate. Now I want you to look carefully to see the shift. If this is 270, you need to understand that 3 squares is 90. 3 squares is 90. So we're going to do it 90 degrees. So this is the shift. I hope you saw that. Let's repeat that. As you shift 180 to 270, 270 to 360, and so on, 0 to 90. So that's what is happening. It's shifting. Exactly. That is the horizontal shift. We are now going to shift it down 1 unit. Exactly. So that's our graph. That's our graph. And let's cross check. We said the highest point will be 2. Exactly. That's our highest point is 2. We said the lowest point will be -4. Exactly. So that's our graph. So that brings us to the end of this problem. I hope you've enjoyed it. Please share with your friends, subscribe, and hit the notification button so you'll be alerted of any video that I post. Thank you very much for watching. Stay blessed.